Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Dundee, Aberdeen and Edinburgh are due to have their new low emission zones put in place in June, about 6 months away now. And nobody knows why, particularly Edinburgh. When the government's figures say that air pollution above 50 is dirty and anything below 50 is clean, one only has to look at Edinburgh's air pollution index, which is 6. It's the cleanest of any city in Britain. You have to wonder why they want a low emission zone. It's certainly not to clean the air. Even if you cleaned it by about 20%, it would only come down from 6 to 5. It's pointless, and it isn't, of course, anything to do with air quality. It's all to do with money. And this can be shown by the very fact that Glasgow, which brought in the low emission zone, this pilot scheme, has seen its air quality worsen. It has got worse. And the reason is buses and lorries. Because the ban on older vehicles doesn't mean a ban on dirty vehicles. It literally means a ban on poor people who tend to drive smaller, cheaper, less polluting cars. We'll take a look at this to see why these bans, or these ULEZ zones rather, should be abandoned. Here goes. So, pollution spewing from diesel buses has risen in Glasgow despite car and lorry ban. Because they, as I say, they're not getting rid of the dirty vehicles. They're only getting rid of the older vehicles, the poor people's vehicles. You can start to drive. I mean, there's a picture here. And on the bottom right, you see a nice big fat engined Merc. But what you'll notice is it's a newer model Merc and therefore is allowed in the city. And there's a big engine BMW and that's a newer model BMW. You're allowed it in the city. Don't have an older vehicle though. No, not allowed them. Levels of nitrogen dioxide, which increases the likelihood of respiratory infections and was the driving force behind the Glasgow low emission zone, have risen year on year despite the crackdown on older cars. Because the problem, of course, wasn't older cars, it was dirty vehicles. And of course they don't test for dirty vehicles, they go by age, not emissions. And buses can be nice and shiny and new, but have you seen the crap that comes out the back of them? If you truly want to have nice, clean, fresh air, get rid of all the buses and lorries. They're the polluters, not the cars. Levels of harmful nitrogen dioxide, the main rationale for the Glasgow low emission zone, actually rose in the city centre compared with the period before the low emission zone was brought in. Because as we say, it's a poor people zone, not a low emission zone. Experts say the main polluters are buses, calling into question the entire rationale for the city council, run by a wobbly and increasingly unpopular SNP Green coalition, just like the Scottish Government, banning older cars, vans and lorries. But of course it's got nothing to do, it's all to do with money. That's all this is. It's money and they're just taxing poor people because they're easier to tax apparently. It's now less than 6 months until similar low emission zones are introduced in Edinburgh, Aberdeen and Dundee, and calls are growing for the plans to be put on ice. New figures today reveal that pollution levels in all three cities are already well within legal limits. Indeed, Glasgow forced out the buses and sort of said they had to upgrade the buses and things. And immediately on doing that, saw a massive increase in air quality. The problem was always known to be the buses. Indeed, the dirtiest part of Glasgow to this day is still the bus station. But it always was. It's buses that are the big polluters. In the capital, checkpoints at Nicholson Street and St Leonard Street show nitrogen dioxide, NO2, at around half the legal limit for each of the past 4 years on average. Meanwhile, Aberdeen and Dundee's city centre air monitoring posts have also been within the legal limits since 2020. So there is no legal requirement to have these clean air zones. It's only money. The figures were reported by the Scottish Mail on Sunday, with Scots Tory Transport Secretary Graham Simpson telling the newspaper the Scottish Government's own data shows pollutants within the legal limit at every monitoring spot in the proposed LEZs. And that's since at least 2020. It's difficult to see the justification for their introduction. Well, just look at their books. That's the reason for the introduction, of course. The lesson from Glasgow is that it's easy to botch these schemes. They impose huge costs and inconvenience on motorists, and if they go ahead with the introduction, Aberdeen, Dundee and Edinburgh must not repeat those mistakes. Pay the extra. Get the full data. If you're going to ban cars, don't ban them on age, ban them on the amount of crap they put out. And if you're truly going to do a punishment, when you do a flat rate punishment, £50, £60, whatever it is, that isn't a punishment. That is tax raising. If you truly want to punish people, don't do it as a value, because that affects poorer people more than rich people. Do it as a day's earnings. Say if you come into the city in your car, you get fined 1 day's earnings. Let's see the difference that makes. In Glasgow, nitrous dioxide in November rose at both monitoring stations in the zone compared with the same month in 2022. At Hope Street, it was 43.7 micrograms per cubic metre compared with 41.8 last year, while at Townhead, it was 26.5 compared with 20.9. The legal limit is 40. Experts said the main polluters are buses, calling into question the entire rationale for a low emission zone banning cars and lorries. No, especially when it's the buses that are the polluters. Glasgow City Council says the main effect of breathing in raised levels of nitrous dioxide is the increased likelihood of respiratory problems. Well, there you go then. Folks, if you've got problems breathing, stay off the buses. They're dangerous. It adds that nitrous dioxide inflames the lining of the lungs and could reduce immunity to lung infections, causing problems such as wheezing, coughing, colds, flu and bronchitis. I went through Hong Kong and it was like you had to swim through it. The air quality there was so low. It was awful. You could literally see it hanging in the air and you were breathing and it was like breathing treacle. It was horrible. You go to Scotland, it's clean, fresh air. You don't need a low emission zone. Spokesman said the vast majority of vehicles driving into the zone already meet emission standards. No, they don't. They meet age standards. You don't measure emissions. You measure age. It's bullshit. They're lying to you. They're just straight up lying to you. They're looking only at the age of the vehicle, not its emissions. A Transport Scotland spokesman said low emission zones are key to protecting public health by improving air quality. No, they don't. They're lying again. They're saying they're improving air quality. They've quite literally shown air quality is getting worse since they've introduced the low emission zone. And they're standing there telling you that these things are good because they improve the air. Their own figures show that they are lying two-faced bastards. And yet all they're trying to do is tax poor people in order to push an agenda to raise money, and then lying to your face to say, oh, look how much better it is for you, as you are coughing your lungs up, thanks to the air quality getting worse since they've introduced it. What kind of... And the trouble is, you can actually present this. You can show someone who votes SNP and say, look, they've said that this is improving the air quality. Their own figures show the air quality is getting worse, and they're telling you a lie. And the SNP voter will go, yeah, but I'm still going to vote for them, even though they are liars and I can see that they're lying. You say, why are you going to vote for them? And the SNP voter will go, because I'm very, very stupid. These people are lying to your face. Oh, yeah, low emission zones, good for your health. Okay, what happened in the low emission zone? Air quality got worse. And they want to introduce them in Aberdeen, Dundee, Edinburgh, the cleanest city in Britain. It's nothing to do with air quality, is it? It's all to do with money. And they want lots and lots of money from poor people. Coming up. Once the average SNP voter's IQ gets into double figures, a lot of them will start realising the problems of the SNP. And they'll start realising that they're being taken for idiots. They'll start realising that they are the ones suffering the most because of the policies. And then, and only then, once they've wised up, once they've woken up, smelt the coffee, and realised what's happening to them, they may stop voting for these clowns. But I wouldn't hold my breath, because your average SNP voter, even if he's shown the truth, will still vote for them. Because they just don't have the intelligence to not vote for them. It's very sad, isn't it? Going through life that stupid. Anyway, I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment. Please share the video. Till next time, stay safe, stay well, and stay out of the low emission zones if you're poor and have an older car. But if you're rich and got a really big polluting car, knock yourself out. Bye.